I thought it'd be good just to be able to introduce the different hosts and the different people that are part of this today, because essentially we as the Academy have put together different things and different procedures in place to be able to support industry growth on this stuff. So we spoke with our steering board just a week ago around the different things that they are seeing in the space. But also I wanted to give a perspective from our Academy members and some of the things that they're seeing in space and some of the recommendations that they have for industry. So it'd be great to introduce. So Mary Kate, it would be great. Maybe say a little bit about yourself and we'll go from there.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Kate Mahoney. I'm the Global Head of Virtual Reality Applications into Healthcare at HP Inc. So that is the PC and printer manufacturer. And we also make HMDs, and I partner with a lot of folks in the industry to deliver the best VR experiences into the healthcare space. I think about the healthcare industry all day. It's not something new to this coronavirus. So happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks,
I think, yeah, I think our host might have muted himself by accident.
There we go.
There we go.
Again, Zoom.
Yes, Zoom is handling lots of a big load at the moment. Yanis, maybe if you go ahead as well, say a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Yanis. I'm a CEO of Exonicus. We are based in Seattle and Latvia, Riga. I'm now in Riga, Latvia. We are focusing on virtual reality emergency medicine training simulator. We work for military, both civilian, selling our product to simulation centers and medical universities. And currently we are working on exciting COVID-19 training scenario and PPA scenario for medics, that they know how to use their equipment and prepare for treating patients safely.
Fantastic, thanks. And Amy?
Hi, hi everyone. I'm Amy Hedrick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cleanbox Technology. And as you can imagine, there's obviously a lot of focus on cleaning, and that is kind of where we come in: health, public safety, and hygiene. So our core product is designed to decontaminate headsets, virtual and augmented reality, mixed reality headsets. Which is really critically important as always, but I think maybe at the forefront of focus right now for obvious reasons. We are able to use UVC light and an LED as opposed to a mercury tube and decontaminate headsets from viruses, bacteria kind of transversion or contagion in a 60-second cycle. So we do that without mercury tube. I mentioned that because that means that you're not exposing something that's like living on your face and head to any kind of toxins that you might otherwise. So we've been very busy during this time, not only with our core product, but other innovation that we've had in the pipeline that has sort of been fast-tracked because obviously there's a lot going on around the world. And a greater need for hygiene in general in both commercial and XR spaces.
Fantastic, thanks. So yeah, I mean, a little bit around this panel in particular. I think, obviously lots of different companies at the moment are facing lots of different challenges, unique things that that they've never actually encountered before. Some are, facing difficulties, some are facing opportunities. So in particular, I think we're going to focus on both of those angles. But I guess I'll just kick things off. I mean, Yanis, you're in the enterprise deployment space at the moment. I mean, what kind of things are you hearing from clients? What kind of things are they saying to you?
Actually, we experience a lot of interest right now from both European companies and also US companies. We just yesterday finalized one client who bought our software from Europe, and we see a lot of opportunities currently. We see this as an opportunity rather than something that stops our business, because the virtual reality is a safe environment where teachers can teach their students. It is virus free, there are no viruses in virtual reality, and so it's very, very, very exciting times, yes, for our company.
I mean, interesting. I mean, what kind of things, what opportunities are you seeing in particular from yourself?
It is, yeah, a lot of interest from different companies, different countries. They are, yes, through different sources. For example, World Health Organization. We have a conversation with one of the board members, who are very interested in these kinds of training simulations. Who are like, so we particularly saw the need for training simulation for those medics who don't use their PPA to treat their patients, because they infect patients, not only those who are sick because of COVID-19, but those who are not sick with COVID-19, and they are sick to different diseases. And it is very critical to use equipment, the right equipment, to have these masks, have gloves, and all the other equipments. And our solution is to give them opportunity to train and test whether they know how to use these special equipments.
No, that's great. Mary, maybe do you have a bit of insight from your perspective as well? Because obviously you've been doing lots of different enterprise type stuff as well from HP's perspective.
Sure. So I think HP, yes, sorry, Kate. I think HP has kind of two minds about it. HP is a really large global company, and so what's coming first from the company is employee safety and safety of their families and surroundings. And so, for example, we just did a webinar to look at the science of the brain behind dealing with all of this uncertainty, and how can we move forward just with all of these unknowns. And is there any solace in the fact that this is happening around the world? Everybody is in these unprecedented times and struggling with similar things in a way that maybe we've never known before, but also in a way that we can find solace and connection through virtual ways that have been previously unavailable. HP is also looking at how we can use our machine, I call it the HP machine, to provide care. So for example, we're partnering with some 3D printing manufacturers using our printers to 3D print essential parts, whether that be parts of ventilators, pieces that can connect masks on doctors and caregivers. So, you know, kind of seeing how in this unprecedented environment, we can use our technology in new and meaningful ways. That's like maybe from a really large scale perspective. And then if we dig down into the portfolio of products that HP produces, where we've been in constant contact with the CDC, we have released some cleaning guidelines, how to be safe, what what combination of alcohol and water you can use to wipe down the machines, what options are available for you, trying to be open and honest with our customer base about the risks of having a PC next to the patient, but also how to keep them safe. And finally, in virtual reality, my team has been meeting in virtual reality in an attempt to feel more social connection, and even setting up times just to play basketball or bocce ball in a virtual environment and just have a little bit of fun and feel connected, but be sure to stay on a routine and think about what you can control versus all of these uncertainties that are swirling around us. So it's a multi-tiered approach, but I think there are a lot of opportunities in these uncertain times, but that is not to minimize the impact that this virus is having on families and communities around the globe, and how can we impact and help there as well.
No, that's really great to hear. I mean, Amy, I mean, obviously you're working with lots of different companies, and they are, mostly kind of utilizing your technology on those things. I mean, I'm guessing you've had quite a rush of different things at the moment and stuff. I mean, what impact are you seeing from the industry as well?
On us, or just in the industry as a whole?
I guess, from your perspective, and then also industry as a whole.
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously I think, well, it's significantly impacted us, of course. We've been working very, very hard to make sure that, we are not only anticipating demand, but also able to meet it. And we are working with some really fantastic corporate partners and other strategic partnerships to really make up, to get to the point, to meet demand, I guess, if you will. That being said, of course, there are still a lot of people. I mean, I know the interesting thing about what Mary Kate said in terms of being remote and doing things remotely is primarily our core team has always been a bit remote. So for us, we've got our executive team in Los Angeles, we've got people in New York, and then we've in Southern California. It hasn't really had the same impact in terms of our own business and the social component of it. I'm just happy I'm in California. I live in New York City primarily, which was not really a place to be right now. I might be stuck with no food in my apartment at the moment. But fortunately, I'm in Marina del Rey right now. So that's been good. But in terms of the business itself, I mean, obviously people are, there's a whole range of impact, because you've got small businesses who are dependent on, their use of XR, whether that be in an entertainment way or an enterprise way. And they're either struggling, a lot of them are struggling, to be honest. So I'm hopeful that there's going to be enough of a, positive, something that can help turn those businesses around. For healthcare, though, specifically, I would bring up, because this is kind of comes back to it. There's a lot of need there's a lot of need. I know people that are taking their VR training programs and a bit refitting them to, for instance, retrain recently retired physicians or nurses, etc. So there's a lot of innovation, and just in terms of capabilities, that I think a lot of companies are starting to get creative and think, well, we've got these skill sets, we've got this, this IP and this capability. How can we use this to help both businesses and people right now during this crisis? I mean, Giannis, your company obviously specializes in doing that anyway, and I'm certain you've probably had some interesting conversations of ways that you could even, use that around addressing a global pandemic. And of course, Mary Kate, I know that you guys have your whole healthcare division, and you certainly have those opportunities as well. From Cleanbox's point of view, our own core product is what it is. We are also fast tracking other products that have becoming critically essential for all businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess like one of probably the biggest impacted areas of our industry would probably be LBE, right? I guess you've probably had, Amy, quite a few different customers in the LBE space. What has their feedback been? Well,
I know that there's it's hard. I think people are having a difficult time, and some of the we have a range of clients. Some of them are larger, and some of them are smaller. And we did have we've had smaller clients previous that kind of put hygiene first, and it was very, very helpful for their business. And unfortunately, with at least in California and a number of other places, people just can't go anywhere. All the restaurants are shut down, everything's shut down. And unfortunately, that will have an impact on small businesses. But that being said, there will be a time when people come back out. And so in terms of LBEs, yes, it was critically important to a lot of companies. It will be critically important as businesses open back up and people are able to be mobile again. So we've had a lot of we're working with a lot of LBEs right now to prepare for when people are starting to come back and they're going to be, first of all, concerned, am I safe? Is it, are we socially responsible? Do we pass, do we clear the 6 feet of separation kind of parameters? And if so, what have people done to make sure that, customers are first and they feel they not only are safe, but they feel safe.
Mm-hmm. No,
I hope I hope that there's, I hope that some of the smaller businesses will get, either government funding or other types of funding to help them keep going, because, something that's when you shut down businesses for a while, there's not a lot of runway.
yeah, and that's the interesting thing is we're as an academy, we have lots of members all over the world, so we're tracking responses from government in completely different ways. Like, for example, here in the UK, the government will cover 80% of wages for anyone that's to be made redundant, and grants of up to £25,000 at the moment for companies that are going to face hardship. But it seems that different governments all over the world are taking different approaches to this, which makes it a bit difficult to I guess, especially for those organizations where there isn't as much government support.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I know. I think it's unfortunate. I mean, do you know, Daniel, or I guess anybody else on the call? I mean, are there other financing outside of government? I mean, are there funds that small businesses, small LBs can tap into at this time?
So we're in the process of actually, and funny you asked this, we're in the process at the moment of actually putting together a whole huge resource for anyone, whether they're an academy member or not, which is going to combine all of the different grants and funding from governments and stuff, and we're going to be tracking it from multinational, from the US through to Europe, on different things. So that's something that we should be able to get across to people by kind of Monday. It's something that we're working on pretty quickly, and tracking that. But if anyone in the group here has any knowledge from their own governments or from their own countries, then that'd be interesting as well.
Yeah, for example, in Latvia, similar to UK, we have programs that support small businesses and support those who can't work right now, and the support is very generous from Latvian government. And I don't know, in US probably it's different, but here they are supporting very well.
It's good. That's good, and I think the U.S. is a little bit behind on some of these things, unfortunately. But Daniel, it's great that you guys, the AIXR, is putting something together. I think that will be really useful. So hopefully, the word gets out that there are at least resources that are available, or they will be made available. And again, that's the whole kind of point of the community, is to be supportive of each other during good times and in global crises.
I think what I want to add is, for example, in our case, we have a collaboration with both ministries in Latvia and also university, like University of Washington, and here in Latvia, Riga Students University. We have close relationships, and through these collaborations and partnerships, we can extend our business, and staying together, we can support each other and build great products. And I think the key is to stay together despite that we are like separated. And these internet technologies like XR, like VR, can be a good tool for communication, continuing these social bonds, and supporting each other, I think.
Yeah, no, that echoes kind of what we say. And what's interesting as well is when it comes to government and funding and things like that, it's we have a member who we were speaking with last week, who mentioned that from their government, and they're based in Singapore, they're actively working right now with universities and governments, looking at different solutions to different things. And here in the UK as well, where I'm based, very recently, the Innovate UK government grants have just come out for up to £500,000 in funding for solutions that help solve social distancing. So what we're seeing is, these new measures are making new innovations as well, which is obviously quite interesting.
How easy is it for that particular thing, Daniel? I mean, if that's for ways of bettering social distancing, I mean, how easy is it? Because obviously with XR technology, this is kind of our forte, right? So how friendly is that toward the XR community?
Well, this brings up a good. Well, this brings up a good topic, which I actually wanted to bring to everyone in this webinar as well, is because I think we've got to be careful here to understand the difference between short-term trends and long-term kind of permanent solutions here, because we're well aware working right now that there aren't a ton of consumers right now that own headsets at home, and accessibility. The LBE market was meant to be quite strong in encouraging users now. So I think it'd be interesting to pose this question to you here. What does everyone in here suppose is a just a short-term thing that we can start looking at in things, but longer term, what is it that we need to be working towards that will, if something like this comes up again or comes around again, what can we prepare for?
I don't know that I have that crystal ball into the future, but I think maybe one of the funniest things for me is my parents are both teachers, and my mother is a public school teacher, and she invited me to a Zoom meeting over the weekend so I could video chat with my dad. And I was just thinking, like there are other ways that we've been video chatting for years. And yet now my mother's been introduced to this conferencing tool and she's loving it. She loves to schedule meetings with people and have them dial in and chat, just with the family, scheduled time that everyone is sitting down. And that sort of consistency, while it's beneficial just in the short run, and they're also using the platform for teaching with the students, is working in unexpected ways to connect our family as well, and kind of having that consistency in that schedule, and understanding that finding things that you can control and making it a consistent in your life is really beneficial for the mindset, but also for the feeling of connectedness. And I think what we need to focus on generally, and maybe moving forward, is how people are utilizing technology today to feel connected, whether it's eating breakfast with your family over a video call, or eating breakfast with your family over a video call, or something that you're setting up with your team so you don't feel so isolated. Brainstorming ways that you can be creative and help people in these times, because that is maybe another way where you feel that you're having more of an impact. It helps you feel better, but it also has an impact on the community when you can help others. So I think maybe taking some of the best of what's coming out of these crazy times and leveraging them into the future so we can continue some of the best practices that we have. I know, for example, I have friends all over the world, and I have the ability to reach out to them at any time and connect with them, and I choose not to, or I choose to be busy with other things. I don't know. But now, just thinking about the technology and how it connects people in a new way is opening interesting avenues. And I think that will be a long-term or a longer-term way that we're leveraging this into the future.
I think you actually bring up a really good point, because Daniel, your question at one point was around short-term versus long-term impact, and I kind of feel that again, the consumer market is still not saturated with HMD users, but this is kind of also, the world is very busy, and sometimes that adoption rate can be impacted by other things like this. Now, as Mary Kate's mentioning, now people think about video chatting with their family. And now that could be family that you actually still haven't seen in several months, having nothing to do with the pandemic, but suddenly it's important to have that option of connection. And so it could be a really good segue for the XR community as a whole to say, hey, by the way, this technology can keep you connected and engaged in these newfound ways, and all the positives about it, even after this we get through this.
Yeah, no, certainly. And I think that's what
Already. Yeah.
that's what's interesting from consulting, the board kind of last week is, the general feedback has been that, it's not all doom and gloom for different companies and stuff in the sense that, okay, so yes, we're going to see a down in LBE type installations, but theoretically, and this is the feedback from the groups, is that we should be seeing an increase in at-home users now because people are more. I think it goes back to Mary Kate's kind of thing there, where people are more open to trying new solutions, right? And in addition to that as well is an interesting thing that's happening where there's, for the people that are still fortunate enough to be working from home and have an income still, those people are going to find themselves with a much higher expendable income because they're not going out for dinner, they're not going out for activities, they're not going out to bars and clubs and things like that. So there's this expendable income now which is going to be spent on different things, which all of a sudden makes one of these VR headsets not look as pale in comparison, right? And it goes in hand with with what HTC is seeing as well, where they've seen a steep increase in game sales from the kind of the Vive kind of platform. And in some cases, some game developers are seeing quite significant percentage increases in their sales as well. So there's those aspects from the home consumer market that we take into play.
Interesting.
I mean, Yanis, I think you're interesting because you're seeing it from an enterprise stuff. Are you seeing when it comes to obviously deployments of headsets and deployments of things like that? Are you seeing concerns from these individuals and people utilizing technology from a health perspective and things like that, like a hygiene perspective, and what kind of things do you tell them when it comes to that?
I see that, for example, we use Oculus hardware, and it's very hard to get right now. It is very bad obstacle for us. But as we are talking with universities, medical simulation centers, and military medical simulation, medical simulation centers, yes, we are looking for the future, and we are building the future product. Currently, we focus on case study publications and to validate this that this solution is a good and good tool for it's there are different cons in using virtual reality, but overall we see that the XR is going up, and people are seeing opportunities using virtual reality, especially, and yeah, I think we are optimistic and seeing a lot of opportunities right now, these times, and in the future.
I mean, Mary Kate, you mentioned earlier that HP had been putting together guidelines on hygiene and things like that as well. I mean, when you're speaking to anyone about deploying with your headsets in particular, I mean, what do you say? I mean, what do you tell them? Is appropriate for keeping hardware clean and keeping people safe?
So first and foremost, CleanBox is the best solution to clean the headset, period. It takes the worry out of ensuring that you're following strict guidelines because it's kind of foolproof. But one of the other approaches that we've taken is vetting and testing different brands of germicidal wipes. Thankfully, with this coronavirus, it's not a very hard bug to kill, though it is very easy to spread. It lives on surfaces for long periods of time. We know that now just from testing of the Diamond Princess. If you've been tracking that at all, they're seeing the virus is living on surfaces from 17, 19 days ago. Very scary, but at the same time, if you're following CDC guidelines of wiping down commonly touched surfaces, cleaning your hands, the virus is quite easy to kill. So we're also putting out guidelines to say, this is the recommendation coming from the Center of Disease Control, the CDC in the US. This is the proper way to clean our hardware, be that the headset or any type of computing device that you touch. And then just be vigilant about your general hygiene. It seems like a simple approach, but if you think about how many times you touch a new surface in a day, it becomes incredible. And how few times, at least in my life, I've been realizing I do, in fact, clean my keyboard or clean every light switch in the house or my, steering wheel or something. So just that added vigilance, that underlining of hygiene is becoming increasingly important, and that's most of the messaging coming from HP, leveraging off of other people who are much smarter than me, much smarter than anyone in my company, to say, that these are the practices we recommend, and so we're adopting those and promoting those as well.
I mean, Amy, it's obvious at this point that Cleanbox is a fantastic tool for being able to keep hardware clean and different things. I mean, what other advice would you give around that? So I mean, obviously you've got your Cleanbox. What other things come into play with that as well?
In terms of hygiene,
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, I think it's it's unfortunate that it takes a pandemic to get people to wash their hands, but that should be the first thing you do, is wash your hands. Wash your hands. And Mary Kate mentioned a bunch of surfaces. She's right. A virus is, this one is a single strand RNA virus. And in a lot of ways, it is a very simple thing to kill. Like she said, it's also a very simple thing to spread. So if you think about hygiene in those terms, you can probably, I'm aware more of like, did I just raise my hand to touch my face? And did I just play with money? Not that I have any cash here to play with, but if I did, then what I did was I just, counting my money, or where is my cell phone been? I've got my cell phone here. Was I just out driving somewhere? Did I touch my steering wheel? Did I hold the handle? My knee went out. So I'm like using the stairway as my prop. So then I'm like thinking, now I gotta wash my whole arm. There can be some extremes you can take to that, which I think extremes are okay right now. But I think I'm hopeful that whole concept of, just thoughtfulness is really what it is. It's mindfulness. And then it's also thinking about public safety. Like, what could I transfer? What could come to me via my own efforts of transfer, and what could be, somebody else, and just thinking about that in terms of a cultural setting or a social setting. Obviously with our products, our design is focused around something that's living on your face. It's living around your eyes and nose and mouth. So that is priority for us, making sure that you 100% always feel safe. Like, COVID-19 is one thing. So is pink eye. So is the norovirus. So is the common, you've got all sorts of things that come into play if you start to really realize the impact that you could be having on the person next to you. The other thing that's been kind of surprising, to be honest, is, a lot of, at least in terms of media, around who is susceptible to this particular virus. It's not just necessarily people that you would expect. There are plenty of people that have other underlying healthcare issues, or other sensitivities, or you don't know who might have just had surgery, for instance. And just keeping that entire social awareness, I think, is really critical. And then when it comes to your electronics, obviously we've got our core products. We have other products coming out that are geared toward other types of shareable or personal electronics. So we are, that is a product that we will have this summer or sooner. But, I think keeping those things in mind, those touch points that are so ubiquitous, they get forgotten. Hopefully, keeping that front of mind will last.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's great. But I think, just to echo some of what's been said there as well, is, from our point of view, we've never always been like a huge fan of headsets at trade shows and things like that, in the sense that very often staff aren't very well trained on, let alone hygiene, but actually interacting with users and things like that. And also there's that element of, you take people out of immersion and things like that. But I guess, in particular, and we're seeing obviously not very many events, physical events now at all, but trade shows and the conventions and things like that have been a bit of a difficult one when it comes to this stuff, because lots of people from all over the world are trying different hardware and headsets and things. So it's those large gatherings in particular that put users most at risk. Whereas in general, if a user is using this headset at home, and has it within their house or things like that, and especially enterprise deployments where you can have even a lot more in control of the situation and stuff, as long as, I guess, staff are very properly trained and the user is it's their headset and things like that, then the risk is relatively much lower than a deployment at a trade show or a convention, I guess. And that's one thing that we wanted to echo as well.
Yeah, even at home, when I use my headset, or like you have your earpiece on right now, or I have my earbuds in, I have a clean box in the other room, and I put them in there. When if I've got to go to the store or the pharmacy or something, I come back, and the first I just put I'm put my keys in there too, just as an extra precaution right now. And hopefully, I mean, that I think that mindset hopefully will stick. But yeah, large groups of gatherings, obviously, I think people are going to have to be more aware of that. It's not just the experience of thousands of people, shared hardware and same space. It's really it's beyond that.
I think the world is going to become much cleaner because of these gatherings are not happening. And I see also opportunity for events like trade shows and industry conferences to be held in virtual reality. I think this is one big opportunity for those who have businesses as these industry conferences. For example, we have applied for big military medical shows and simulation in healthcare as events in Denver and in San Diego, and I think these will be postponed or definitely be cancelled. And this is very bad for our business, because there we meet people and having conversations, and new partnerships are being prepared for product sales, and which generates revenues. But I think so we need to think about the opportunities and good things that are with this coronavirus is bringing to us. Yes.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because there's one of our Academy members, Make Real, as well. They published recently an article with a list of all of the different platforms and stuff that can be used, and they've got this really handy just spreadsheet which just says what platforms it's available and what headsets it can use and what its abilities are. And it's a really, really great thing that I'll be happy to share with everyone after this as well, because I think it's really useful. But even from our perspective, we've taken the VR awards digital. We've gone virtual with it for this year, just because there's no realistic expectation that the events market and things like that is going to be sustainable in the short term. But also B, I think it's a really interesting opportunity for us to dive into it. It's almost giving us an excuse to actually say, what, let's just do this, because there's not going to be any concerns around it at this point in time. So I think we're seeing people take more risks with virtual reality, and companies are willing to spend a little bit of that expenditure on something that they were considering before, but now it's becoming something that, hey, let's take this a bit more seriously, I think.
Well, in some
sense, I was just going to say, I know some companies that have solutions, for example, that can be geared towards education, are opening that platform for educators to use for free for a year, because nobody completely knows when this pandemic will end and when it was finally going to be over. So a full year of free software, it's almost wasteful if you have the ability not to try out these new things and take advantage of some of the goodwill or the promotions of some of these software vendors who have these great solutions that maybe you've been interested in, and now you can take advantage of in unique ways. And it takes the user to be aware of it, but it also takes the company to deliver the offering, to make some sort of gesture for the end user to encourage them to try new things. And I'm looking forward to the many ways that some of these technologies can and will be leveraged, that maybe that adoption would have taken much longer previously.
Mm-hmm. And we're certainly not seeing any slowdown in, innovation within our industry, because, just looking towards HP, for example, teasing your new headset and things like that around those kind of things. I think, there's if anything, I'm seeing a lot of more companies, especially in the, immersive space, go all in now and actually invest in, a lot more, using this almost downtime a little bit in some way to give themselves a bit of an oomph.
I think it'd be good for people that have, like, obviously, in terms of going back to the trade show thought, there are some things that obviously you're going to have to continue to have trade shows and physically see in physical spaces. But there is great opportunity to try out everything that exists for immersive non-physical spaces, and even test ideas in new meaningful ways, right? See what works, see what doesn't, and almost approach it as a trial period that you couldn't have afforded to make happen, but now you have it and here it is. And again, it's sometimes, the shifts like this spark a lot of really great innovation. And hopefully, I think within going back to the XR community as a whole, there's a lot of great tech out there. There's a lot of creativity. There are a lot of great masterminds. There are a lot of great content creators, and putting all of those amazing skill sets together and saying, hey, this is a unique opportunity. I wanted to try this, or this idea pops in my mind. Let's try this. Yeah, this is the time.
So I just wanted, just before I went into, I guess, some of the stuff that the Academy is doing, just wanted to ask everyone on the panel as well. Just like for any XR company that's out there at the moment that is, potentially worried or potentially concerned, with the turbulence of general markets, what would you say to them, if they came to you and said, look, I'm worried right now, and what in general would you say to them?
I would say, don't worry about what you can't control. Our factories luckily are open now. They have been closed for about a month. They're up and running again. So from a business perspective, I worry less, but I do know that when you are facing uncertainty, there is a lot of panic, and you can get too involved almost in understanding every aspect over things that you have no control over. So focus on what you do have control over, and focus on those that you love and what you can do to help and promote healthy living in your immediate community and for those that you care about. But try not to feel so helpless by the weight of this truly global problem that's out of your control.
Mm-hmm. Yanis?
I agree to Mary entirely, and yeah, it's I would say that seeing opportunity and seeing a little bit more positively. I'm more positive person. I don't think that it will last for years, and I think it will go better in time. And yeah, just to see from bright side things, and yeah, that's my wish.
I think as a good example, some of the, if you look at, Mary Kate brought up manufacturing, for instance, that can affect a lot of different businesses in different ways, but you can't, there are plenty of examples out there right now where certain manufacturing facilities have basically refocused. Let's say, our industry we might not have these same clients that have the same timelines now, or maybe that part of it is completely shut down, but we know that there's a need for this to help deal with this. Let's take our same skill set and again, this is a manufacturer, so they can maybe switch over their product, for instance. Using that kind of a mindset as a basis for looking at your own company. If you happen to be, at a place where like, wow, this is really disrupting my entire future, rather than, trying to see all those components of what you already have, what your package already looks like, and then effectively pivoting. You're pivoting and you're helping to repackage, whether that becomes a long-term thing or it remains a short-term thing. It's still an action that, you can take a look at and see what your options are.
No, some sound advice there. And there's from our perspective, like I said, we obviously no company out there wants to be seen as capitalizing on a negative pandemic or anything like that, but the reality of it is that businesses need to be able to shift business models. If one thing has changed because of this pandemic, don't let it ruin your entire plans for the year. You can adapt, you can improvise, and you can get to that position where it's going to improve kind of longer term from your perspective. And that goes hand in hand with what we've been trying to do from the very beginning on this, in terms of supporting industry, whether someone's an academy member or not. It's really about us all coming together on this instance. I last a week and a bit ago now, we contacted every major event in the immersive space, some who directly compete with some of the things that we do. Yet we all came together and we had a conference call talking about these challenges that as events that we're facing. What kind of things can we be doing? What kind of solutions are we looking at? So the thing that I reiterate to everyone at this point in time is this is a big time for collaboration. This is a time for everyone to come together, and a time to to adapt and to be able to see that kind of the light at the end of this, where we're going to be all in a kind of an improved and better position because of it. So part of that, some of the things that we're going to be doing as part of the academy is we're going to be tracking the impact of this longer term. So we've been speaking with lots of different companies and research institutions at the moment to be able to see, okay, so this is the impact now, what's the impact in 3 months, 6 months, and be able to track that a bit longer term so that eventually we can provide a bit more guidance and advice around how to prepare for situations like this. And obviously, like I mentioned before, we're putting together our international resource on different grants, funding, support, funding packages, all of these different things, and also insight from the board, the steering board directly, which should hopefully take a lot, help a lot of people. And then lastly, I think the other thing that we're trying to do to be able to support is, we understand that we had a program called AIXR Generation where we'd go into schools, and it's really sad because we literally had around 6 different workshops lined up coming up that we were going to be going into schools and help a lot of younger people learn about virtual reality and try stuff out and things like that. And obviously those have to be postponed for now, but from our point of view, we've just decided to take that all online. So we'll be launching an e-learning platform on the academy to be able to help these students that we would have gone into schools and helped with, but now they can go online and try out the different stuff and support from that. So that's just a number of the ways that we're looking to try and support. But as I said, it's everyone coming together and everyone being able to provide support from this angle.
Daniel, if I may, I think you made a very good point. And what you're saying is basically you're still helping other people. I mean, what you're talking about is your product is still providing a service that is really critically necessary. It's unfortunate the world has events like this, but you're still providing services, whether it be simulator services or hygiene services or education services. Those are still fitting and meeting a need that's out there. And I think that that's a really important thing to focus on as a business. That's the reality. You're meeting a need still.
Yeah, precisely. Like the world doesn't stop just because of this. Everyone still has to go on, and everyone still has to run their stuff. It's all around that, isn't it?
You're doing a great job, Danielle.
Yes, thank you.
No, thank you. No, I think like I said as well, we wouldn't be able to host these kind of panels and these webinars without all of you guys coming in here and being able to support and provide your insights. So thank you as well for being part of this.
I do like to date the modern era of VR to when I was putting duct tape and hot glue on Palmer Luckey's prototype Rift for E3 in 2012.